Alright, so next up we are about to learn about Blade templates. Now Blade is a templating engine of Laravel. So first let's explain what is a templating engine. So imagine you run a blog on your website, and obviously you might want to have different blog posts that are stored inside the database. So with Blade you can just create one file that would be called a Blade template, and it will have some additional Blade syntax, and then your job is to pass some data to this Blade template, data from the database, those blog posts specifically, and Blade will make sure that this is rendered into the final HTML. So that way you can have one file that would describe how a certain page should look like, for example, a page with a blog post, and you only pass different data to it. Then there are Blade directives like if statements or loops, or you can check if the user is authenticated. So there are plenty of those useful directives and useful additional syntax that lets you output HTML, but not only HTML, using dynamic way. Alright, so let's see how can we use Blade. But first let's make sure that our local development server is running. So inside the project directory type PHP artisan serve if the project wasn't running. Alright, so now it is running and we see the main page. So now let's switch to the code editor and we will render our first Blade template. So we've already have one here, this welcome Blade PHP. Let's get rid of this one and let's start from scratch. So Blade templates will be stored inside the resources views folder. Let's go ahead and create our first own template and call that index blade.php. This is our new template. Let me zoom in a little bit, go back to routes. So I would like to use this template to output something from this route, from the main page. So instead of just rendering simple string here, to use the Blade template, I will call a view function. And its first parameter is the name of the template. But you can see that using plugins from VS Code, it suggests all the names of all the templates that are available. As you see, index is also suggested. So you don't need to specify a relative path to this template. It is assumed in Laravel that everything inside resources, views, are the Blade templates. You can obviously add some subfolders here, and we'll do that later on, but you know, everything inside resources views are the Blade templates. So that's everything that we'll do right now. Let's just add something to this template like hello, I'm a Blade template. Save changes. And let's see if this is being displayed. All right, so far so good. So we have created our first Blade template and we know how to render it from a specific route. All right, so if we want our Blade templates to be reusable, we need a way to pass data to them. So we can use the same template that can generate a personalized page with different data. So to pass data to your template, you will have a second argument to this view function, which would be an array, where keys would be names of the variables that would be available within the template, and their values obviously would be the values of those variables. So let me create a name variable with my name. And now to access name inside the template, I can say the name is, and the syntax would be double curly braces, and within this double curly braces I will use $name, which exactly matches the name of the variable I have passed to this template. Now let's save changes and let's see how it works. As you see, it has worked fine. Now, another thing that you need to know about passing data to your views is if you would try to pass HTML tags, this would be automatically escaped by Laravel. So if I would try to use the B tag to make this text bold, this wouldn't work. This would be escaped and displayed as text. And this is for security reasons, to prevent the so-called cross-site scripting attack. So for example, if there will be something dangerous here like a script tag, it will also be escaped. Alright, now let's add some logic to our Blade templates. As an example, let's comment out this line. So we won't pass the name variable to our index Blade template, but the Blade template expects to get the name variable. Let's first see what happens then. Refresh this page, and we've got an error from Blade. There is no variable called name. So let's use our first directive. So directives start with an @ sign, and we will use the isSet directive, which works the same as the isSet function in PHP. It lets us check if certain variable is defined. So we check if name is defined in the first place. Then we close this directive using and isSet. And how that works is this block would only be displayed if this name variable is set in the first place. Maybe we can also wrap that into HTML tags here too. And there it is. So the template still works. It doesn't display the name because it wasn't passed. But if you change your mind and you use this template and you pass the variable, the output is different. It also displays the name then. So that's the first example of conditional rendering in Blade. We'll be having much more examples of conditional rendering later on. Alright, so let's summarize what we've learned about Blade templates so far. So you can use Blade templates to render dynamic content that can differ depending on the data. So to render a Blade template, you will use this view function and you will pass the name of the template. The templates are stored inside resources views folder, and they need to have a .blade.php extension. To pass data to Blade templates, you will add a second argument, which would be an array, where keys would be the variable names and they can have values. And then inside such Blade template, you can access those variables, but also you can use conditional rendering and other directives, where directives start with an @ sign. And they are used to produce some dynamic content and to add some logic to your templates. Now to output the value of the variable, you would use this double curly braces syntax, but then you need to remember that the value of all variables will be escaped by Blade, so you can't put HTML tags inside any variables.